History remembers kings, wars, and empires, but it forgets the rivers of blood that built them. Behind every throne, every crown, every victory was sacrifice, secrecy, and silence. Tonight, we tear away the veil and reveal the bloody truth. If you dare to walk these hidden halls with us, subscribe to the Silent Lodge and step deeper into the shadows of history. Since the dawn of civilization, blood has been more than a simple biological reality. To ancient peoples, blood was life itself, a sacred current flowing through every human being, animal, and God. In nearly every culture across the world, blood was treated not as something ordinary, but as a substance that connected the physical world with the divine. The Egyptians saw blood as the very essence of creation. In their mythology, when the goddess Sekhmet unleashed her fury on humankind, rivers of blood were said to flow across the land. To calm her destruction, the gods brewed a potion that resembled blood, a reminder that even the deities themselves respected its power. In Mesopotamia, the Sumerians and Babylonians spoke of blood as the clay of existence. According to one myth, the gods mixed divine blood with earth to shape the first humans. In this story, humanity is not only tied to blood, it is born of it. Across the ocean, the Mayans and Aztecs carried out rituals where blood was offered to the gods as nourishment. To them, blood was the fuel that kept the universe alive. Without sacrifice, the sun would not rise, the crops would not grow, and the cosmos itself might collapse into chaos. But blood was not only seen as a gift for the gods, it was also a binding force between people. In many societies, oaths were sealed with blood. Warriors, leaders, and even ordinary people cut themselves, mingled their blood, and swore eternal loyalty. This was not symbolic. It was believed that by mixing blood, souls were bound together in a covenant that even death could not undo. Yet with all its associations of life and unity, blood also carried a darker side. It was equally tied to death, corruption, and fear. A wound spilling blood was not just an injury, it was a sign that the barrier between life and death had been pierced. In the minds of the ancients, to lose blood was to risk losing the soul itself. This duality, blood as life and blood as death, is what gave it such immense power. It was sacred and dangerous, healing and destructive, holy and cursed. And this paradox made it the central element of countless rituals, myths, and historical events. As we move deeper into history, the meaning of blood becomes even more unsettling. Sacrifices made in its name would shock the modern mind, yet to ancient civilizations, spilling blood was the only way to keep balance in the world. To truly understand humanity's obsession with blood, we must step into the ceremonies where it was most deliberately spilled. Across continents and millennia, people believed that offering blood was the only way to maintain order in the universe, appease the gods, or gain power beyond mortal reach. Perhaps no culture is more infamous for this than the Aztecs. Their great empire, which flourished in central Mexico, revolved around rituals of sacrifice. To them, blood was not a mere symbol, it was the literal lifeblood of the cosmos. The sun itself required nourishment, and that nourishment came from human hearts and the blood that flowed from them. At the height of these ceremonies, priests atop towering pyramids drew blades of obsidian, sharp as glass, across the chests of captives. The blood spilled down the steps was not considered cruelty, but duty, a gift to the gods to ensure the survival of the world. Without it, they believed the skies would darken, the crops would fail, and the universe would collapse into chaos. But the Aztecs were not alone in this belief. Far across the Atlantic, the Celts of Iron Age Europe practiced rituals tied to blood and sacrifice. Ancient Roman sources describe druids conducting ceremonies where blood was shed to honor nature and the deities of the forests, rivers, and skies. While the details are debated, archaeological evidence suggests that human and animal sacrifices were indeed offered, not for cruelty's sake, but to maintain harmony between humans and the natural world. In the cold north, the Norse carried their own traditions. Warriors pledged their loyalty through bloodlines, blood brotherhood. Two men would cut themselves, let their blood mingle, and swear oaths of unbreakable unity. To break such an oath was to invite not only dishonor, but divine wrath. In their mythology, even the gods themselves were bound by promises sealed in blood. And yet, rituals were not always so grand. In many parts of the world, small offerings of blood were made during farming seasons, hunting expeditions, or before battles. A drop of blood on the earth, a smear upon a weapon, or the sacrifice of a small animal, these acts were believed to invite protection, fertility, and strength. What ties all of these rituals together is the belief that blood was never merely physical. It was energy, life, and power concentrated in a single, sacred substance. To spill blood was to release this energy, to open a channel between worlds. But if blood had the power to sustain life and appease gods, it also held the power to curse. Many ancient traditions warned that spilling blood without purpose invited restless spirits, vengeful deities, and disaster. Blood needed meaning. Without it, it was seen as dangerous, chaotic, even evil. And so, humanity walked a delicate line between sacrifice and slaughter, between sacred ritual and forbidden act. Every cut, every drop, every ritual carried weight that echoed through generations. The further we go into these traditions, the more unsettling the truth becomes. For myths soon emerged from these very rituals, stories of creatures who fed on blood, relics that contained it, and curses that demanded it. As rituals spread across cultures, they gave birth to stories, myths that turned blood from a sacred offering into a source of terror, fascination, and eternal mystery. Where fact left off, legend took over, weaving blood into tales of immortality, curses, and creatures that still haunt our imagination. Among the most enduring are the stories of vampires. Long before the Gothic tales of Europe, ancient civilizations told of spirits and demons who craved the blood of the living. In Mesopotamia, the Lilitu, a night-dwelling spirit, was said to prey upon infants and drink their blood. In India, myths spoke of the Vitala, a spirit that possessed corpses and fed on human vitality. Slavic folklore told of the Strigoi, restless dead who rose from their graves to drink blood under the cover of night. These myths carried a simple but chilling truth. Blood was life, and to steal it was to steal power itself. Vampires and blood drinkers became symbols of fear, of what happens when the sacred substance of life is consumed for selfish gain. But not all blood myths were monstrous. Some were divine. Across Europe and the Middle East, relics associated with holy blood became objects of intense devotion. The Holy Grail, in Christian tradition, was said to be the cup that caught the blood of Christ during the crucifixion. Legends claim that whoever drank from it could receive eternal life or divine wisdom. Other relics, such as vials of holy blood preserved in churches, were believed to hold miraculous powers. Pilgrims traveled great distances to glimpse them, convinced that even a single drop could heal disease, cleanse sin, or protect entire kingdoms. The theme of immortality through blood extended far beyond religion. Alchemists in medieval Europe pursued the idea that blood contained a secret essence, the elixir of life. Stories emerged of rulers and nobles who sought youth and longevity through strange practices involving blood. While many of these tales blur myth and rumor, they reveal how deeply humanity has tied its hopes of eternal life to the crimson liquid within our veins. Yet myths also warned of blood's dangers. In many cultures, cursed relics demanded blood to maintain their power, binding owners in cycles of violence. Folktales spoke of weapons that drank the blood of their victims, never satisfied until claimed by a worthy master. These stories reveal an ancient fear that blood, once spilled, could awaken forces beyond human control. What unites all of these myths is the idea that blood is never neutral. It can sanctify or corrupt, save or destroy, bless or curse. It is a gift when offered in devotion, a nightmare when stolen, and a temptation when promised as the key to eternal life. These legends still linger in our modern world. They echo in books, films, and cultural fears that refuse to fade. We dismiss them as stories, but the fascination remains. Why? Because myths often preserve truths too unsettling to be remembered as history. And as we turn from legend back to reality, the line between the two becomes thinner than we might imagine. For the bloody truth is not only found in tales, it is carved into the very history of our world. While myths and legends cloaked blood in mystery, history shows us its role in shaping empires, medicine, and entire belief systems. The past is stained with crimson, not in metaphor, but in fact. In medieval Europe, physicians believed that blood controlled the balance of the body's health. This theory, known as humoral medicine, claimed that human well-being depended on 4 bodily fluids: blood, phlegm, black bile, and yellow bile. Too much of any one fluid caused illness, and blood was seen as the most powerful of them all. The treatment? Bloodletting. Doctors used leeches or sharp instruments to drain blood from patients, convinced they were restoring balance. From fevers to infections, nearly every ailment was treated this way. While modern medicine now sees this as dangerous and often fatal, it endured for centuries, supported by some of the most educated minds of the time. It is a reminder that even in the halls of science, blood was misunderstood yet revered. Beyond medicine, history is filled with rivers of blood spilled in trials and executions. During the European witch hunts of the 15th to 17th centuries, tens of thousands of people were accused of witchcraft and put to death. Blood became proof of guilt. A scratch that would not bleed was seen as a sign of a witch's pact with the devil. The condemned were tortured, drowned, or burned, their deaths offered as both punishment and public spectacle. Inquisition courts across Europe justified executions as a way to cleanse communities of evil. Each drop of blood shed was considered a sacrifice for the purity of society. What we now see as brutality, they saw as necessity. On the battlefield, blood was the measure of glory and conquest. Wars waged in the name of faith, land, and power often carried a hidden obsession with bloodlines. Royal families guarded their lineage as though it were sacred. To claim the right blood was to claim the right to rule. Dynasties rose and fell on the strength of ancestry, with marriages arranged not for love, but to preserve the purity of noble blood. The belief in divine bloodlines went beyond politics. Monarchs were seen as chosen by the gods, their veins carrying something more than human. To spill royal blood was not just treason, it was sacrilege. When King Charles I of England was executed in 1649, some in the crowd rushed forward to dip cloths in his blood, believing it held healing power. The event reveals how even in modern times, blood was regarded as sacred, almost magical. Yet history also shows blood as a tool of control. Leaders and empires used it to inspire fear, loyalty, and obedience. Soldiers swore blood oaths before battle, binding themselves to fight until death. rebels and revolutionaries spilled blood to overthrow regimes, believing that only through sacrifice could freedom be born. When we peel back the layers of history, we find that blood was not just present, it was central. It healed and harmed, condemned and crowned, destroyed and created. And as we step from history into the shadows of secrecy, we discover that blood's influence did not end in the past. It was carried forward, hidden in oaths, locked in rituals, and whispered through societies that thrived in the dark. As history bled into modern times, the role of blood did not fade. It slipped into the shadows, carried on through secret rituals, whispered vows, and hidden societies that treated blood as the ultimate seal of loyalty and power. Across cultures, blood oaths became a way to bind members together. To swear on one's life was not enough. Blood had to be shed. A cut across the palm, a drop on sacred ground, or a shared ritual scar ensured that the promise was eternal. Breaking such an oath was seen as worse than betrayal. It was a curse upon one's very soul. Secret societies carried these traditions into the modern world. Fraternal orders and clandestine brotherhoods often required blood to mark initiation. While details are shrouded in mystery, accounts suggest that the symbolism remained the same. Blood was the bond that no force could undo. Whispers of conspiracy tie blood to even larger ideas, the obsession with royal bloodlines, elite families, and dynasties said to trace their heritage back to ancient rulers. Whether fact or myth, the belief persists that power is not just political or financial, but inherited through blood itself. Even in folklore, these fears and fascinations endure. Stories of cults seeking eternal youth through blood rituals, or elites rumored to preserve their strength through hidden practices, echo the same themes that haunted humanity since the first sacrifices. Science, too, has played a part. Experiments in the 20th and 21st centuries studied whether transfusions of young blood could slow aging or restore vitality. Though controversial, they reveal how modern minds are still tempted by the same promise, that blood is the key to life itself. But beyond conspiracies and experiments, the truth is far more universal. Blood remains the one thing that unites every human being. Across language, culture, and belief, it flows within us all, the same substance that terrified ancient people, sanctified rituals, inspired myths, and justified wars. This is the final revelation. Blood is not only a biological necessity, but the most powerful symbol in human history. It is life and death, sacrifice and salvation, curse and blessing. It has built civilizations and destroyed them. It has inspired faith, fueled fear, and demanded reverence. And though the rituals have changed, the obsession has not. Our fascination with blood still lingers in horror stories, medical frontiers, and the secretive corners of power. The bloody truth was never buried. It continues to shape the way we see life, death, and each other. The bloody truth is older than any empire and deeper than any myth. It was carved into history, whispered through legends, and written into our very veins. And while the world has changed, blood still holds the same power it always has. The power to create, to destroy, and to bind us all in silence. If you wish to uncover more secrets hidden in the shadows, subscribe to the Silent Lodge and step further into the mysteries that history tried to forget.